In any quiet night, the sliding doors of a central Moscow police station hissed open. The on-duty officer didn't glance up from his newspaper. The door sensors were overly sensitive and often responded to passing vehicles. But then a soft cough caught his attention. Looking up, he found an elderly woman standing at the threshold, visibly nervous. With an irritated tone, the sergeant asked why she had come so late. She explained she needed help finding her dog, which had disappeared earlier near the ruins of an old hospital. The officer's demeanor hardened. That building was off limits. Anyone who entered it was asking for trouble, he warned. He told her flatly, if her pet had wandered into those ruins, it was likely dead and there was nothing to be done. Still, the woman pleaded. She had no family, no one to help. The officer's response remained cold. He eventually threatened her with arrest for wasting police time, and she reluctantly left, disappearing into the night. The officer returned to his newspaper, shaking his head. That hospital, he thought, should have been torn down years ago. All it brought was misery, horror, and endless police reports. A week later, he would hear the grim outcome of that woman's desperate plea. Back in the 1970s, Moscow's health care system faced overwhelming demand and outdated infrastructure. Officials greenlit the construction of a state-of-the-art hospital in the city's northern district, not far from the Lyuborsky River. The facility was envisioned as a towering 10-story hospital capable of accommodating 1,300 patients, but from the outset, engineers and planners raised concerns. The budget allocated for the project was insufficient, especially given the scale of the design. Even more troubling was the selected location. It was a low-lying wetland, prone to flooding and unstable ground. Despite these warnings, construction began in the summer of 1980. Over the following months, residents watched as the massive hospital took shape. Built in a brutalist architectural style and based on a three-winged star layout, the looming concrete structure looked more like a fortress or a prison than a place for healing. 2 years later, the shell of the building was complete, but then, suddenly, all work stopped. At public meetings, citizens demanded answers. Where had the money gone? Why had the project stalled? Eventually, officials admitted that the site had once been a cemetery, closed and covered decades prior. The unstable ground led to recurring floods in the lower levels, and attempts to fix the issue had drained the budget. No further funds would be allocated. Thus, the hospital was abandoned, never finished, never operational. And from that point forward, it gained a much darker reputation. For a while, the site was guarded against theft and vandalism, but as the years passed and funds ran dry, the fencing decayed and curious visitors began slipping in. The unfinished interiors were treacherous, unsecured elevator shafts, exposed rebar, waterlogged floors. Many who entered seeking adventure or shelter suffered injuries. Some never made it out alive. Homeless individuals were found dead inside, drunken thrill seekers too. There were even bodies that appeared to be murder victims dumped in the ruins. The local police received increasing calls. One after another, cases piled up. And then, in 1985, a death occurred that shocked the community. The elderly woman who'd visited the police station had, against warnings, gone searching for her dog. She entered the hospital's crumbling reception hall and was horrified to discover piles of animal bones and remains. Dogs, cats, even birds, some had been dissected. Others had clearly been killed violently. She rushed to the authorities, but again was turned away. Some days later, a group of teenage boys exploring the flooded basement came across something floating in a pool of stagnant water. It was her. Authorities retrieved the body and were stunned at her condition. Both legs were shattered. Her back and torso had suffered massive trauma, as though she had fallen from great height. Yet the room was sealed. There were no open shafts, no stairs above. How her body ended up in that water in such condition was an unsolvable mystery. In 2005, police were contacted by the family of a teenage boy, Alexei Krishkin, who had gone missing. Known by his friends as Edge, Alexei had struggled with anxiety and depression. He left behind a note implying suicidal intentions. His family mentioned he often visited the abandoned hospital. He found peace in its isolation. Police searched the building and quickly found Alexei's belongings on the 8th floor. His backpack was left by the open doors of an unfinished elevator shaft. Naturally, they assumed his body would be at the bottom, but when they descended, they found nothing but dust and broken concrete. Hours later, his remains were discovered in a second-floor room. Again, like the woman before him, he had injuries, consistent with a fall, but the room was fully enclosed. There was no logical way he could have landed there. After his funeral, Alexei's friends returned to the site. They painted murals in the room where his body had been found. Soon, reports began to emerge of strange sightings. Several teens described seeing a glowing, human-like figure, tall and slender, roaming either near the 8th floor elevator shaft or the second-floor room. Witnesses said it would pause, look directly at them, then silently walk away, passing through walls and barriers like smoke. It always vanished just as quickly as it appeared. In 2006, rumors spread of 3 teenagers found murdered inside the hospital. In 2011, the body of an urban explorer was discovered mangled at the bottom of a lift shaft. The city refused to release official figures. Local media remained silent. But the deaths continued. Another rumor gained traction, one even darker than the others. Locals began whispering about a secretive group, known only as Namoska, said to be occultists. The group allegedly took over the hospital's basement in the 1990s, conducting rituals deep underground. Residents linked the group's bizarre activity to the sudden spike in unexplained deaths. Eventually, authorities responded. An elite police unitoman was tasked with ending the group's operations. After weeks of surveillance, they stormed the building. What happened next remains unclear. But the official line is that the cult was eliminated permanently. The remains of the members, it is said, lie buried beneath the still flooded basement. To this day, no one agrees on the true nature of what occurred at the Pavranskaya Hospital. Some blame the cultists. After all, once Omen intervened, the rate of deaths dropped sharply. Others believe a serial killer or multiple killers used the hospital as a dumping ground, perhaps even a place to display their crimes. Then there are those who point to the land itself. That the hospital was built over a cemetery was no minor detail. They say it was a desecration, and the spirits of the dead, disturbed and enraged, ensured the living pay the price. Whatever the truth may be, the opportunity to investigate further has long passed. In 2018, the haunted ruin was sold to a private company. Demolition began later that year. By October, every beam and slab of concrete was gone. The land was cleared. All physical evidence of the hospital's existence was erased, and with it vanished its horrifying legacy, or so it seemed. But even today, locals report strange sounds from beneath the new buildings. Faint screams, distant cries, a feeling of being watched. As if the hospital never really left.